Both Vice President Mike Pence and U.S. Secretary of Housing and Urban Development Ben Carson visited Colorado this week. On Thursday, Carson visited various Denver area housing developments, while Pence toured Lockheed Martin in Littleton and attended a Republican fundraiser in the Tech Center. David, Colorado is used to getting national visitors of the political nature, so this isn't a front page news, but Vice President Mike Pence had a fundraiser that made some headlines last week about the ticket prices. They were so in demand that the price was cut, and there was a handmaid's protest outside the area, which followed Vice President Mike Pence around the nation. Your reaction to this week's visits?
Well, I think Ben Carson's visit is the truly significant one because he he visited the Mariposa project near Lincoln Park, excuse me, which is run by the Denver Housing Authority, and said, this is great. This is a really innovative project. So, for example, it doesn't just provide housing. It helps people learn about credit repair. It has a jobs program for job training so people can get jobs in the restaurant industry, among other things. He said, this is excellent. We need what he calls envision centers, similar to Denver's model, all over the country. And he also explained that there's so much paperwork from Housing and Urban Development, his cabinet agency, that it made it difficult for Denver to get things started. And so what he wants to do is cut the paperwork and give the local governments more flexibility to follow Denver's good model. I was somewhat confused initially when I saw for the Pence event these people showing up in what are, I looked it up, they're actually costumes based on the old Dutch cleanser commercial lady from the 1940s and 50s. You know, this huge long skirts and these gigantic bonnets where you lose all your peripheral vision.
Well, that's where the Handmaid's Tale got them?
That's where Margaret Atwood says that's where she got the costume for her novel, was based on that logo. And of course, it's now one of the top Halloween costumes this year. And so obviously you can understand why people who want to dress up like that would be protesting the Trump administration. This is a guy who used to run beauty contests where they have people come out in very skimpy bathing suits and things like that, and and showing off their bodies. So he is the last person in the world you would ever worry would make women wear too many clothes. But these old Dutch cleanser handmaids, they're dressing up like women in Saudi Arabia and Pakistan, where you have to be fully covered by law. And obviously Trump and Pence are completely against Sharia law. So you'd understand why these people would be protesting against them.
Ben, you've been tossed a lot of odd segues, but connecting a Dutch cleanser ad to Sharia law, that's up there.
Not even going to try. So here's what I have to say.
Your take on the national visits this week.
I'm going to let David be David. So Ben Carson, it was sort of a big yawn, because basically what he said is, gee whiz, the prior administration actually did something really good, and they crafted policy that works, and Denver Housing Authority used prior policy, and look at what they've done. But I'll change the name and call it an Envision Center, and I'll eliminate a few forms, and then I'll take credit for it. I'm glad he came to look. I'm glad he came to see. Maybe he won't be so hostile and motivated to disrupt something that his predecessor did when it works. And so hopefully they'll just stay out of cities and states' ways in that regard. And in terms of Mike Pence, I'm just inclined to yawn and turn him over to Ramsey.
Well, Ramsey, I'm not going to argue with that segue. Your reaction to what we saw either from Vice President Pence or from Ben Carson?
Well, I think one of the things that Carson also did while I was here, he's talked to a mortgage group and talked about trying to roll back some of the penalties for smaller issues when it comes to applications for federally subsidized housing, or for people trying to get those loans. So that could be interesting to see what that happens moving forward. As far as the Pence visit goes, I mean, the joke around the newsroom was I wonder if they're going to start giving out hats as well to get people to come in. Maybe a 2-for-1. You get a picture with a cutout. You get your, maybe some cornhole with a Mike Pence themed cornhole set. But moving beyond that, I think it really shows the lack of enthusiasm that the base is having, which is going to be a really big issue. I mean, Pence was here talking about his tax cuts. I think it was the same day as the House passed a $4 billion budget measure. But people like Representative Kim Buck, he voted against it. He was one of 20 Republicans to join all the Democrats in voting against it because of the addition it would have to the deficit. So, you know, I think Pence coming here, the lack of response and trying to sell this tax cut is the thing that's keeping the Republican Party together. I wasn't bored by it all. I didn't see it as a big yawn, but I think it more for, you know, I'm sure the speech wasn't that exciting. But moving forward, I think it is going to be exciting to see how this lack of fundraising, that whether it be in this instance or in other major donor sort of situations, how this sort of plays to Republicans' chances in 2018. Mind you, Colorado's a lot different than Alabama or something like that, and it never was a Trump state. But it's going to be interesting to see later on how this plays out. I mean, the enthusiasm is not there.
Patty, you have a lot to choose from here, whether it be Dutch cleansers, enthusiasm, or just yawning. So your choice.
I'm going to return to Mariposa, which is a great project. Youth on Record is based there. They have a recording studio, the spinoff from the Flowbots, where they are teaching kids how to make music, how to record music. They have a restaurant that you can go to where they're teaching people the food industry. So it's really a great project that has no reason to thank Donald Trump. Let's hope that Ben Carson, who he was kind of a like Lucky Strike extra, who knew he was coming to town, but that it was a good thing for him to see. Pence, I like the handmaids who were out there. We've got a great slideshow, very entertaining. They were very well behaved. It was a nice protest.